Hello and welcome to another installment of the Omni Talk Ask an Expert series, the series where we go deep with experts on the trends shaping the future of retail. I'm your host, Chris Walton, and joining me today is a gentleman from a company that is a frequent guest here on Omni Talk, and that is Sam's Club. So please join me in welcoming Vinod Bidarkoppa, the Chief Technology Officer for Sam's Club. Vinod, welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris, good afternoon, and thank you for having me on the show today.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you are following in a long line of former Sam's Club executives. I think we had Kath McClay, the CEO, on here last year. And we first talked to Sam's Club, I think, right after the pandemic. We were talking about everything you guys were doing in terms of concierge pickup for services. I think rolling that, capability out in I think it was 6 days. And then regrouping with you guys later on in the pandemic as things were playing out. And, I've been on record as saying, Sam's Club is one of, if not the most innovative retailers in America. So it's always just an absolute pleasure of mine to have you guys back on the show whenever we can. So Vinod, why don't we start out? Let's just start out a little bit. What's your background? What types of things have you done in your career, and what specifically are you in charge of within your role as the Chief Technology Officer at Sam's Club?
Yeah, sure. I'm a mechanical engineer by training.
Okay.
So I started off as a manufacturing engineer in an automotive company, really loving the automation that's used for manufacturing automobiles. And then that's where the computer bug hit me. And I said, hey, man, this is quite exciting. And then I went on to do my grad studies in computer science.
You did.
And then since then, it's been really building great products and services for a bunch of, I would say, a consumer industry. Basically, I started with the American Airlines, and then subsequently, with HP for a long period of time, really in the travel, transportation, and logistics industry, and living and working in 3 different continents, and have just lived in Asia and lived in Europe. And so my career took me through HP and Tesco. I had a role as a CIO for worldwide engineering and technology operations at Tesco, and then subsequently a very interesting shift with United Health Group in trying to drive a retailization of healthcare for a few years. And that's when Walmart reached out and they talked about this opportunity to really join a startup. And I said, that was a little bit intriguing to me. A startup,
that was the pitch.
Walmart? And they said, hey, we got a $65 billion startup called Sam's Club. Would you love to be part of it? I said, I'd never heard $65 billion and startup in the same sentence. And from there, I got so excited. And here I am, and I'm part of the Sam's Club leadership team, really enjoying what we do here and building great products and services and experiences for our members, and really a fantastic story.
And now, how long have you been there? So when did you join up with Sam's Club?
It's just about year and a half now.
Year and a half ago. Okay. So if I heard you right, so mechanical engineer by training, then I thought it was funny how you said I got a computer bug, which is just, there's almost so many jokes and so much material off that, but I won't go in that direction. But so then you got a bug for computer science, went back to grad school, got into the travel side of the business. I'm curious, that's why I love the human side of all that we do. What made you interested in retail back then, the first go around? And then it sounds like you came back to it. So I want to know how you got pulled back in. But what interested you the first time?
Yeah, I get asked this question all the time.
Do you?
So Chris, if you remember in the early 2000s, the airline industry was going through, I would call it quite a bit of a transformation from a travel agency model to, Travelocity.com, Expedia.com, disintermediation of the travel agency model and the kiosk in the airport. So we were at the forefront of really that digital transformation in the airline. And I just enjoyed, doing that, for different, as part of my consulting gig for different airlines in different parts of the world. And then when the Tesco opportunity came along, they said, hey, look, we've got a similar challenge here in that we've got a very large brick and mortar centric setup with 7,000 plus stores, and we want to go digital. Mm-hmm. And with that, the background of digital transformation on the airline, and now being on the other side of the table, working with the CEO and the rest of the leadership team at Tesco was really excited me. And in Europe, some of these retailers are further ahead than what I saw at that time. Was a great opportunity for me to get in and start looking at what those, as the Brits call it, multi-channel.
Sure.
And really that was the moment where I came in from one consumer industry, which was the airline travel, into the retail, and pretty much have been there since then.
Got it. Okay, that's funny. So that's cool that you said that too, because I've actually, if I picked up on that right, it sounded like you actually had some experience with, say, the self-checking kiosks and everything that was going on in terms of that evolution. And we actually frequently reference that a lot when you start talking about how retail is going to play out in the future and some of the early experimentation that was done there, and how you learn about what users want and how long it takes for them to gravitate towards one method versus another. And then with Tesco always having been on the forefront of everything, that's a cool experience.
There are many parallels between the airline and the retail industry, Chris. I mean, if you look at the airline, you got the same plan, buy, move, sell aspects, right? I mean, you got the perishable inventory in the retail side. You know the equivalent of that is butts in the seat inventory for the airline, right? You got the Advantage card and the loyalty card. We got loyalty. We got huge logistics of moving things around. So there are many parallels, and that's why I love the retail industry, and I love working at Sam's Club.
Well, that's a good segue too, because when you get on a plane, when you think about it, that's a scan and go application, and that's an application Sam's Club's had, if my memory serves, since like 2016. So there's a ton of analogs within the discussion. Definitely as we go along here, I'd love to hear wherever you see that or wherever your experience, brought different things to light too. I think that could be really interesting for the audience listening. Well, okay, let's shift gears. You guys have been doing a hell of a lot over this past year. One of the things I've always admired about you is that you as a company, Sam's Club itself, really does a great job of thinking about Sam's Club as a product, the whole experience as a product by the traditional Silicon Valley definition of it. What types of things have you brought into that total product experience or umbrella over this past year since the pandemic began?
Yeah, sure. I think, Chris, for us, really innovation is in our DNA. A lot of the conversations that happen, at the leadership meeting is about really how do we bring those great experiences to our members. So when you work back from a design thinking concept, which really highlights the empathy for our member, it drives a lot of conversation around, okay, what kind of products do we need and services do we need for members, for associates? So I think COVID accelerated a lot of that thinking as well, because I think as our members started engaging with our club, if you will, as a product differently, what kind of products and services should we be thinking of in presenting to our members? So since then, I think you're already aware of the great story around Scan and Go, and we started building on top of that. And that's just one example is the Scan and Go fuel. So we did Scan and Go fuel. We did a club pickup. But when I look at the things that our members touch and feel, but there are also equally any number of things that happen behind the scenes that we have to look at in a very different way to actually make the experience better. And this could be in the supply chain space, this could be in the merchandising space, this could be in club. So a lot of time is that I spend with my leadership team is around, okay, how do we create this one view of the customer, the member? How do we create the one view of the inventory? How do we create the one view of the item, the identity? So a lot of thought process in really rejigging those aspects of how tech can better enable our business. So in supply chain, for example, we rolled out the industry-leading warehouse management system. In different kinds of DCs. We also did. You talked about the innovation lab for supply chain that we launched in Paris, in California. We did the in club. We launched what we call as the health service kiosk, which is really a contactless way of measuring your temperature and clock all in one. So we built this product. It's a hardware plus software, all built. And the great thing about that was one of our engineers actually built the very first part using a 3D printer at home. So that's innovation in Sam's, right? So we took that from somebody building something with a 3D printer at home to launching it across the chain in less than 3 months. So those are some of the examples that I can that really come to my mind when we talk about innovation at Sam's.
Yeah, and I want to get into some of those specifically, some of them very specifically. But you said something too that I want to come back to that I've never quite picked up on before. I've never thought about it. How much do you think the fact that you guys are a membership-based business, how much do you think that impacts the experience design approach? Like, so by that I mean, is it almost easier to get in a true product retail experience design approach because the membership is there? Do you think that aids you in any way, or do you think it's just ultimately comes down to philosophy?
No, I think it helps us. I mean, because our business model itself is based on the growth of membership, right? So everything else really we balance off
value for price, that equation, right?
The value for price equation, and the more members we have, the more the more profitable our business is. It's really the equation is very simple. That's the warehouse model. Mm-hmm. So I think when you start looking at that business model and thinking how can we maximize and make the experiences the best experience for our members, everything works back from there. So everybody, all 100,000 of the associates in Sam's Club have got this front and center that how do we make our experience better for members? How do we bring those special experiences for members? And then everything flows down from there. So that's very central to us.
That's really fascinating to me, especially when you think about like Walmart Plus and then just memberships in general, in terms of that actually being a cultural tool around how transformation needs to happen too, which I actually, quite frankly, have never heard anyone talk about that, and you just brought that to light. Fascinating. Wow, cool. All right. Well, okay. Let's talk about then a key feature then within membership: curbside pickup, warehouse clubs. I've had people argue with me. I've had people write articles directly stating that my opinion on this is wrong. So I'm curious what your take is on it, because I think curbside is just in general somewhere the warehouse club industry needs to move. You guys have been experimenting with it pretty whole hog for the last year. What's your take on this? Is this something that's endemic to the go forward, warehouse club experience as Sam's Club sees it?
Chris, convenience is the strategic pillar for Sam's Club. Okay. And when you actually double click on convenience, it's really how helping our members help them shop however they want, wherever they want, and whenever they want. So which means that we really need to be thinking of what channels are our members going to engage with us. It could be our direct-to-home channel. It could be our club pickup channel. So what we have seen, and we through the COVID and even beyond COVID, I mean, I'm thinking COVID is getting, hopefully we're slowly getting out of it. We're only seeing increased, interaction. We just put our quarter one numbers out. Now, our e-commerce growth is 47% year on year. Right. That's including the club pickup. The pickup. Our club pickup NPS is 80. Right. So we use data to guide us. And data is telling us every day that our members love club pickup. They love to shop in this channel, right? So just being focused around our members and using the data, it tells us that the club pickup will continue to be there as a channel. It'll thrive, and we're making it better every day. Alongside with the other channels. So we're adding more categories that are available in club pickup, and so I think that this journey will continue for us. I think it's really interesting to hear you say that, especially given the landscape and just the competitive positioning in general. Tell us from your role. I think a lot of people talk about curbside pickup. It's kind of the sexy word, one of the sexy words coming out of the pandemic. Right after contactless, it probably is the next most sexy word, quite frankly. What does that mean for your role, though? So, how do you make curbside pickup better? How does the CTO get involved in making that better? What do you do? Yeah. For Sam's Club, technology is the long pole in the tent. We are there everywhere, right? And club pickup is no exception. So you look at club pickup, and the KPIs that we look at is really the full fast, the ready full fast. I mean, how soon can we get ready full fast? How full is the basket, and how fast can we get it out and dispense to our members? And if you look at that, the activity or the experience for associates, there is technology along the way, every step of the way. Are we providing the right alerts and notification when the orders drop? How are we making sure that the nil picks there are very few nil picks, right? Mm-hmm. What do we need to do upstream in order to minimize the nil picks? How do we help with the location accuracy so that the associates can go to the right place with the minimum amount of time? We use an optimization algorithm for them to minimize the shopping time or the travel time within the club. Mm-hmm. More importantly, I think we've started to bring in a lot of AI into the aspect of club pickup, which will also help the members in how do you maximize the slot utilization. How do we, given the labor availability in the club versus when our members want to shop, and how do we maximize the most number of slots for members? So there's tech that's in every aspect of that. AI for club pickup was one example, but we are pulling the AI thread, a machine learning thread, in many different opportunities that exist within the business. All the way from in the back office, I would say, I call it the back office, but it's really supply chain in merchandising and in just even simply forecasting our sales, to a fresh sales tool where where the machine tells them, okay, how much to produce today in order to not minimize the throws and minimize the waste. So a big thing for us is really democratizing artificial intelligence and machine learning in every aspect of our business. So that's very invigorating for our team members and for our business.
Vinod, AI and machine learning, those are two terms too that I think people throw around, pretty loosely. I mean, you've probably been to a trade show yourself, and like every booth has that, in their marketing paraphernalia. What in that arena, if you can, because like I said, this is about going deep with experts so we can all learn. What is one of those areas you just mentioned that you're particularly excited about, where you can relay how AI is specifically impacting the performance of the business, so people can get a sense of what AI is, how it works, and why it matters?
Yeah, I think AI is it could be challenging for people who are new to it, and sometimes there's fear in the minds of the business. Okay, what is this going to do to me? But we have made it easy in many places for our business to understand and the value of AI that brings to the business. I'll take a couple of examples. We have a business forecast. We do a sales forecast, and in the last, I would say, 4 quarters, we've been using machine learning to predict what our sales is on every quarter, and we are doing as better or even better than what a human financial forecaster would do. And then now we're completely using this as our sales forecasting tool, which is probably more accurate than what a human would have done. So that's one great example. The other great example was in the club pickup slot utilization. We've increased the percentage of slot utilization based on the predictive usability of the slots for our members. The fresh sales tool was another great example. We minimized the amount of throw and the waste that was happening in our ready to go meals that we build in Sam's Club every day. We're using this in fraud detection. We're using this in scan and go. So there are many places that is now, like I said, it's becoming a bit democratizing the usage of AI. So it doesn't feel like, okay, there's an ivory tower out there, very esoteric, that nobody knows what happens there, but we're making it real. Price investment is another example. So we used a lot of historical data and said, hey, if we used more predictive price investment that's aided and abetted by machine learning, can we drive better price investment decisions for our business? So we're seeing some great results in the price investment. those are some of the top of my mind examples.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing those examples too. I'm curious too, from your vantage point as the CTO, how does the idea of cloud commerce play into that? Like, that's something I talk a lot about. We talk a lot. I just spent a whole conference at it actually. Like, how do you think about cloud commerce and the interconnectivity that it brings across everything you just described, and how important is that to Sam's Club, and where do you think that goes in the future?
Yeah. No, for sure. So I look at the content, the context, and the commerce are more critical aspects of any omnichannel business. And in Sam's, I think we look at it as a cloud first proposition.
You do?
So, yeah. So I would say, Chris, that 70% of all of the assets that we have for technology assets is on the cloud, right? So that's a great starting position for us to be in. So whether it's our e-commerce, whether it's our membership on the cloud, whether it's our warehouse management system, we've started from the cloud. And we had a bit of an advantage in creating some good greenfield assets on the cloud. But equally, we're also migrating a lot of legacy systems from a mainframes onto cloud. So now where we are currently, it's giving us a fantastic model to really flex based on what we want to do and give us the variability that's needed. We do many events through the course of the year. If it's a May event, an August event, a November event, obviously the holiday events. So we do not constrain or restrain our business based on what they want to do, and we have created the capacity and the capability to go as fast as that we want to go to grow our business. And the cloud has been a great enabler for us from that sense.
Yeah, and I think it's an important point. I mean, I always ask that, and every time I ask it, I think you guys provide a different layer to it, because I just think it's so vitally important. Like hearing 70%, I think that's really, really interesting and really important. It comes to grips with too, because it is what enables you guys to go fast. I mean, it's why you can roll out concierge services. It's why you can roll out pickup as fast as you can. Whereas others, they're still trying to get those types of things off the ground, or even if they're off the ground, they're muscling them in a way that's different than how you guys do it through the cloud.
If you let me add a little bit of technical color and flavor to it.
Yeah.
What we've tried to do, Chris, across all our systems is really create very modularized microservices and container-based applications, which allow us to then deploy those container-based apps onto the cloud, and then we can horizontally scale it without any physical constraints that you would run into if you're in a data center. So it's equally how you architect those systems and how you use and utilize the cloud capacity and the compute and the server capacity that's now available, and a combination of really architecture and building those microservices-based containerized apps and the cloud has really given us phenomenal advantage in really going as fast as we could and really help our business, and in the end really serve our customers and members.
God, I love my job. Okay, man, because you said that, I have to ask you this question. So like, let's say somebody drops you and you get parachuted in, and you're the CTO of just like some random, doesn't even matter, make up whoever it is. Your idea is to make all you just said happen. When you start thinking about cloud commerce and the systems that make it happen, from your experience, like, where do you start? Do you start with the order management system, move up? Do you start with the point of sale system? As high level as you can make that answer, please do. But like, I'm curious, what is the sequential process by which you would recommend somebody look at doing something like that?
Yeah, I would, if I came in as a consultant.
Yeah.
And I looked at, and if they presented to me, hey, here's the problem checklist. I would say, okay, what are the most customer facing systems that you have? What are the peak events that you have within your business, and then what are the key constraints that you have today, and how can we make how can we make the experience better for your customers, whether they're in-house customers, associates, or external customers, as in your leisure,
Sure.
External customers, and then you start from there. Because otherwise, I think with any long run company, legacy companies, you always have a combination of legacy, mainframe, client server over a period of years. And then I would start with, if that's the lens that I have, most typically, if you're if you want to be successful omni-channel retailer, all fingers will point to, I got an e-commerce system that was built on a very old, archaic legacy model, or it's parts of that are in legacy mainframe system. How can we quickly unlock that, re-engineer that, and put that on the migrate and reimagine and re-engineer that on the cloud, so that now you can then let your members and customers shop, with the pace at which they want to shop, any time of the day, any time of the year, and you can start creating those business events and not really restricting you to saying, hey, and artificially capping the growth of your business.
Right, and how they want to shop too, with so many of those criteria being front of the funnel that need the real-time nature of the cloud to be able to bring that to life. So that's cool. That is super cool to hear you say that. I had no idea we were going to talk about that today. So I'm glad you brought that up, man. That's fun. All right, let's shift gears. Okay, so you guys have had a very long history of experimentation. You can tell just by what you just said, right? Like, you've already got a pretty big, large size cloud deployment going on within how you guys operate. One of those things that I think is the hallmark of innovation, kind of the beacon on the hill, so to speak, that gets talked about a lot is Sam's Club Now down in Texas. I get asked all the time, well, like, Chris, people try to get smart with me. If Sam's Club Now is so great, why aren't there more of them? And I always tell them they're missing the point. Are they missing the point, or am I missing the point? Like, what's your take on that?
So, Chris, I think one of the hallmarks of success for Sam's Club is really the culture of experimentation. And that's really quite ingrained into, all the way from Kath to the leadership team, into every associate. So we are not fearful of experimenting. And we fail safe, fail fast. Is something that we talk about openly. And what Sam's Club Now for us really is a sandbox. It's an opportunity for us to try different things. Some we take to the scale, to chain, we scale and take it chain. And some of them we can continue to tweak. So we want to have that freedom. We don't want to pressure the P&L for that. That's not a P&L club for us. Right. So we want to give the freedom for our associates to really try different things. So that's at the outset is what Sam's Club Now is. So at any given time, we have something going on there, which sometimes we don't even know it'll be successful, right? But if you, like any venture, if you are successful with 1 out of the 10, you are rewarded massively, right? So that's the sort of the approach we have. And then right now in Sam's Club Now, which is our innovation hub in Dallas, we're trying different things. We're trying, and some of which I would say just wait for it to come out, and that's I'll talk about it at a different time.
Yeah,
many exciting things that are happening there right now, and some of which are will really be exciting to bring in front of our members.
Yeah. That's why I asked the question too, because I think it's very important. I think it's important for everyone listening. Like, it's important that it's a lab. It's not a prototype, and that's a very different mindset. And as a result, you get the long tail value, so to speak, of the experimentation you're running through the lab. As soon as it becomes a prototype, that all goes away. Now, what's cool though, and the reason I wanted to have you guys back on the show is you are now taking this same approach, this same concept, to the fulfillment side of the business, again, under the umbrella of Sam's Club as a product, with what you guys are calling an innovation fulfillment center out in Paris, California. So, like, what is that? Put it in context of what you just said with Sam's Club Now. What's going on in this innovation fulfillment center?
Yeah. So, Chris, I talked about how our business is growing, our warehouse channel is growing, and Sam's Club is growing. And then obviously with that growth, we're seeing significant e-commerce growth. As just like we talked about Sam's Club Now, we wanted to create some sort of a safe space for us to really try different things from a supply chain perspective, from a fulfillment center perspective. So last October, we created this, what I call as the supply chain lab, if you will, for e-commerce in Paris, California, where we're trying to automate everything from start to finish. A good example there is we said, hey, if an associate in that fulfillment club typically is walking 15 miles a day, how can we take it from 15 miles to 0 miles a day?
Okay.
Right? That's a tall order, right?
There you go. Yeah.
So if I have to take that from 15 miles to 0, there has to be a lot of automation behind it. So right now, what we're trying to do there is like really, implement a goods to person and implement a 3D visualization technology, continuous variable packaging, and an automated sorter. All of this in one setup, so that we can really start testing our units per hour, and the utilization and all of those things. And we're seeing some great results with that. And not only the great results from a productivity perspective, there are many what I would call as side benefits. So, for example, with the 3D visualization, what it does, Chris, is that when you have, like, let's say 2 or 3 things that our member has ordered, and typically in the past, those 3 things, and let's call them a detergent and 2 other things, and if they're this big in size, we would put them in a box which is probably 3 times bigger, and then fill that with a lot of other just vacuum and empty space and other packing material. Right. That's a lot of waste from a climate perspective, from a sustainability perspective. So we came up with an in-house technology, which is patent pending, of how can you really visualize those 3 items and put a package that's as close as possible to the size of those items, and really reduce the volume, the packing volume. And now everybody wins. Now we got smaller packages to be shipped, lesser cardboard that's getting used, lesser shipping material, low weight. So there's a huge sustainability angle as well, as much as driving productivity and shipping items faster from the FC. So this is the sort of the out of the box thinking that we're trying to bring in the supply chain lab, if you will.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah. So if I put the analog of Sam's Club now, like that was a lot of that in the early stages was, what all can you do with scan and go? The principles there in terms of that type of experience. Now here, it sounds like it's a lot about automation. It sounds like you've also got 3D type of technology, visualization technology to help you pack more efficiently, but also then for the sustainability benefits too. That's interesting. Like is there anything else you're trying to look at here in the next, few months with regards to what you're doing out of that fulfillment center?
Yeah, I think as we mature that, and right now we're seeing some great results, I think we'll probably take that to more like the Sam's Club now. We'll take it to scale.
Start rolling it. Yeah,
start rolling it. Yeah. Right, and to see how we can and really make more example or instances of that. So that's kind of where we are with that process right now.
But that's cool because you're already seeing that and feeling that in terms of like what's coming out of there, which again, that's the whole point of a lab, is to start kicking off those types of lessons. So
absolutely.
Yeah, very cool. Well, all right, let's close it up here. So now this is where I like to do let's sit back and reflect part of the show, Vinod. So before we do our How Millennial Are You quiz, if I ask you point blank, what's the biggest lesson you've learned over the past year working through a pandemic? What do you think that would be for you?
The biggest lesson, we've all gone through this very tough period of 12 plus months. It's really the resilience of our associates. It's the resilience of, our society in general. I think nobody knew the scale or the duration of how long this was going to last. And top of that, all the societal unrest that happened. So I think it's the resilience of the team, the resilience of our associates, and really coming to the table and then building those great products and experiences in spite of what is happening in their own personal lives, and really extending that and keeping what we have learned and in becoming an agile organization, and having that empathy and the compassion for our members, for our associates who worked in the clubs, who worked in the DCs, and really putting our arm around our associates and saying we are in this together. And then the concierge was a great example of how we brought that as a service to our members who are senior citizens and immune compromised and so on. So I feel very good of where we have ended up. With some of those experiences are here with us to stay, and that has made us only stronger, is what I would say, from the last 12 plus months.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, the resiliency of the human spirit. I also like that you use the word agile, which I think is a really important word when you think back to the entire discussion we've just had, especially the discussion about the lab and the innovation fulfillment center too. One more reflection. We've talked a lot of tech through the course of this interview. What's the one thing you wish, say, the average retail executive understood about omnichannel technology, omnichannel commerce, from your position as a CTO, that maybe you think they don't quite understand well enough yet? What would that be?
In general, Chris, I think a lot of I would say in general, people think that digital Omni is just creating an app or creating some interesting kiosk or a desktop version. The complexity of Omni is below the surface. I use the iceberg as an example. What you see is just 10%. The complexity of long-run companies is really in those legacy supply chain systems and the legacy merchandising systems. It's all about unlocking and creating that, hey, how do I get to one view of my customer? How do I get to one view of my member, my item, my inventory? And unlocking that is really a heavy lift. And when you do that and you create those Lego blocks and build those modular widgets, if you will, and that's where technology comes into picture. And working with product and like how we do in the Sam's Club, working in the 4-in-the-box model of the business, the product, the technology, and then UX, and really unshackling those old constructs and tech and undoing some of the tech debt is allowing us to really, bring the pace and the agility and build those firm foundations for us to build to get to the next generation of what a great omni-channel retail, in our case, warehouse retailer, will look like.
So good, man. Oh my God, I love that you just said. Yeah, I mean, 100%. When you do Omni well, you don't even see it. I love the example of the iceberg. I've never heard that before. It's not something you're going to see. It's not that flashy tech that everyone's writing about. And I think that's what's so hard for retail executives is it is something that's really hard to know it when you see it. It's not always palpable. But if your omnichannel roadmap is right, my takeaway or lessons from this is actually you're always going to be feeling that way if you're doing it the right way. And so that's an important thing to think about. So you don't kind of start chasing that bright, shiny penny, so to speak. All right, man, well, let's get you out of here on this. Let's have a little fun. Let's play our signature game here, which is how millennial are you? So first question for you, Vinod, over the last, let's say over the last week, how many items how many times have you used a mobile app to say order food?
Man, all the time. Somebody asked me, would you rather lose a wallet or my phone?
Oh yeah, 100%.
A physical wallet. I would say any day. I don't want to lose my phone. Yeah. This is my life now, right? I mean, it's a digital wallet. It's everything. It's a social media. So I'm a big use the phone junkie for everything and anything. So my household orders something on the phone, whether it's food or from samsclub.com, from walmart.com, every other day. So we are big users of Apple Pay, you name it. This phone's life.
Pretty regular for you. Pretty regular. Okay, now I kind of had a feeling you'd say that. Let's take it to another level. Let's say you're in a grocery store. You're waiting in line to pay. Maybe, but let's assume so. You're waiting in line to pay. Depends where you go, I would imagine. Are you paying with a credit card? Are you using like Apple Pay, Samsung? Like, what are you doing? How are you paying for that transaction? Cash?
If it's scan and go, it's all in my digital wallet. So
are you scan and go in it?
Yeah, I'm scanning and going, right?
Right.
If it's not a Sam's Club, then obviously I do Apple Pay. Right?
So at Sam's Club, you're scanning and going.
Yeah, absolutely. And
really?
Yeah.
And why? Because why? We've never had anyone on the show talk about that. Why?
It's easy. I don't have to have. It's frictionless, right? So you don't have to have many. If you already have your credit card as part of your wallet, it's one step less, and you don't have to pull a credit card. You don't have to dip your card. And if it's Apple Pay, it's click it a couple of times and you're out of there. So I honestly I don't remember when the last time I really, other than probably if you travel in some of the hinterland, you have to use a credit card, but most places you don't have to. I don't remember actually pulling my credit card out for anything.
That's cool. So you like that so much. That's great, because you don't have to do it at Sam's Club. It's optional, right? But you are doing that. That's so cool to hear. All right, last question. I'm really curious where you take this one. What is your favorite social media app that you couldn't live without?
Chris, I have many international friends. Okay. And in order to just be in communication with everybody, the best platform that we have found out is WhatsApp.
It's WhatsApp.
That's the free social media tool that works in every country for the most part. Now you can do WhatsApp audio, WhatsApp video, WhatsApp chat. I'm a heavy consumer of WhatsApp.
That is the second time we've heard a text application, right? So as a social media answer.
It's free internationally. They don't have to use it for phone calls. It's, you got it. You're on internet. It works well for me.
How do you, off that question, how do you think about text and the evolution of commerce? Where's your head around that subject as we go forward?
I think commerce will continue to evolve. We are seeing with the millennials and even Gen Z now, as we start seeing the TikToks and, I think there'll be more in-app shopping type of opportunities. And we are engaged in that process as well. I think the world is shifting and is very dynamic, Chris. And, we just want to be out there, have a look out on the horizon as new emerging technologies are happening in what we see there, and bring those conveniences to our members, and let them engage with us in the best way that they can. So I think commerce will evolve, our channels will evolve, and will evolve with the changing technology and I would say the aspirations and the experiences that our members want from us.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, when I hear CTOs, and I've heard it now a couple of times, say, text messaging is the most important social app they can't live without, especially from someone who said he can't live without his phone, which was you. I think that is a really interesting answer when you start thinking about the evolution of commerce and what role text platforms will play into it. So, hey, Vinod, that was great. I love that discussion. As I always do, every time I sit down with any of you guys from Sam's Club, I just love to learn how you guys are thinking about everything. If people found the conversation interesting like I did, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you, to learn more about Sam's Club? Where should they go?
The easiest way, Chris, is samsclub.com. If you get there, I think you have abundant, fantastic information. You could also download our app. You could go to the App Store, and I would say, download the Scan and Go app. Use Scan and Go.
Try it out, yeah.
Download the Sam's Club app. I think there's an abundant amount of information there. So those would be the easiest and the quickest way to find more information.
Fantastic. Well, Vinod, thank you so much. Thank you for joining me today. Great conversation. For everyone listening, again, the Chief Technology Officer for Sam's Club, Vinod Bidarkoppa. To everyone listening, I say it every time, we're almost out of this thing, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Be careful out there.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me here today.